To our listeners, my name is Jeffrey Davis, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. And again, we're being hosted by the CRM firm of MTP Software. Just a wonderful studio they've built for us. We want to thank Frank Sincata and the whole team over at MTP Software. My co-host today, or co-pilot, we'll call him for the day.
And we're flying high.
And we're flying in the weeds, and that's Walter Sullivan from the law office of Walter J. Sullivan Jr. Welcome,
Fancy,
Walter.
isn't it, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I like it.
I've grown up.
Did you stick the J in because my name's Jeffrey?
I'll stick the J in for you.
Our next guest, man, this is a bad name day for me. Stan Davis, founding principal, Standish Executive Search, LLC. Welcome, Stan.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Jeff. Nice to be here.
Jeffrey,
Right.
it's nice to see everybody getting involved in the weeds.
Yeah, it's amazing. Not only does he have the same name as my father, he's got the same haircut. Hard to find.
Whoa.
So, Stan, you do executive search, right?
That is correct.
In the marijuana industry?
Correct.
So why don't you tell us about your business?
Well, the executive search work that we do originated working with larger corporations in a relocation of offices from Washington up into the Boston area. We started to work with some smaller companies and really saw a need to provide them not only with search, but the elements that go before and after search. In other words, planning for it and then following through after the search is completed. The marijuana industry was a natural extension of that. We're looking at an industry that's relatively new, relatively small, and is growing rapidly and has a tremendous need for leadership, more later than sooner, but currently need a position for the people that they're going to be requiring going forward.
You made it a very important word you used a number of times, need versus a want.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a need. Why don't you explain how you end up deciding to get involved in the marijuana business, the cannabis business? I get in trouble from a friend by using the word marijuana. It's discriminatory.
Well,
Is it really?
Yeah, I believe so. It goes back to African Americans and so forth and the trade and so forth. Never knew that. Jimmy Young.
Wow. Okay. It's
Well,
hard to undo primary learning.
to be consistent, we portray ourselves as being involved in the cannabis industry. And the reason again is pretty simple. Rapid growth, very complex recruitment. You're talking about an industry that is new, small, doesn't have a large stable of seasoned talent. So the question is, when you go to any industry, where they really want you to look for them is they want you to look within their own industry. And within cannabis, there's not much place to look, particularly regionally here in New England, which sets us up to do the kind of work that we do for other clients, which is to understand what it is that the business needs, understand where it's trying to go, and find the talent that fits that, regardless of the industry that they're in currently.
What have you seen the issues as you begin searching into this industry of the need and the reason for it?
Well, it's not simple because you're talking about operational needs, depending on where the client is in the industry. They may be growing, they may be distributing, they may be retailing. And of course, there are other peripheral businesses that are related and important to the industry. It's a matter of understanding what they need, again, and the complexity comes from the fact that, the industry itself, again, is small and limited in terms of available and seasoned talent, but what they really need are people who understand operations, people who understand business, people who understand dealing in a highly regulated, highly scrutinized environment. So it's the operations, it's the legal sensitivities, it's the community sensitivities. The right person for a leadership position in this industry is going to be pretty complex to find.
Well, I think I've seen coming about where these, you might grow a great weed and roll a great joint, but you don't understand how to run a business. So they start out all of a sudden the investors say, wait a minute, we need to bring in professionals. And these
Well,
professionals aren't in the cannabis business.
you don't have to have cancer to be in the cancer business, and I don't think I think good leadership, good entrepreneurship is good entrepreneurship, but you do have to look a little deeper because, as you're saying, there's not really a track record within the industry.
Well, and that's a really good point, Jeff, because any business, when it starts out, starts with conception, and then they launch it, and then they try to grow it, and it gets to a point where the people who started it are not the right people to run it.
Well, that's most industries. The startup people are not the people at the more mature stage.
That's right. And you even get to the point later on in the life cycle of a business where if it's successful enough, it gets big enough and complex enough where the founders who started it come to us and say, to quote one of them, this has just gotten too big and complex for us to run. So it happens at both ends of the business cycle.
Go.
What do you see? Okay, so you're looking at helping companies. Now, what about people, as you're going out searching for people to come into this industry, how would you advise them about getting involved in the industry and looking for a job in the industry?
Yeah, well, we represent the businesses, we don't represent the
No, I know
individuals.
that. That's what-
But in response to your question, I think the first thing they need to do is they need to understand the business and some of the things we just discussed. Simply having an interest in cannabis, simply having an interest in starting and launching a new company is not going to do it. It's much more complex than that, and probably the best thing they can do is find a job in the industry that will start them out at least in one segment of a company.
And we've seen that in the people that we've had here, right, Jeffrey, on growing their business. They need to show they have a good business group of people behind them.
If you're not a real business person, it undermines the whole future of it, and I think that's the whole idea. We need to create a lot of stability with this industry. But Stan, Standish Executive Search. Could you tell us a little bit more of the history of the firm and how everything sort of evolved, and what other industries you may be also working in?
Well, there are almost no industries that we don't work in. The reason is our focus is on leadership. Our focus is on organization effectiveness. It started out, I'll take you back to my early career, which was in-house, working in the steel industry, working in General Electric, working at the American Red Cross, and what that meant is gave me some real perspective as to how businesses run, got involved in the operations. But when I got into search, I saw it from the other end in providing the leadership and the talent that these organizations needed. But again, coming into New England, I started to get to work with the mid-sized and smaller companies that don't have the experience or the resources that the large companies have. So they needed more than just somebody to find the talent they needed. They needed somebody to guide the process for them, not only from the search end, but also on the organization design end.
Everybody, we've been speaking with Stan Davis, founding principal, Standish Executive Search, LLC. Walter, how did you meet Stan?
I found him on the internet. I saw that he was out there looking for people to work in the cannabis industry. And I thought that was an amazing, seeing people go from a search business to all of a sudden, we're going to enter the cannabis business. And you just don't really see that often. And you really see the growth. And I'm trying to figure out what went through your mind, and you and your partner, you have a partner, and to decide to get into this.
Well, our focus has been and continues to be businesses that are positioning for significant change, transition, and eventually succession. I don't think that there's an industry that we could think of that is going through more change than the cannabis industry.
How did the discussion go? Like, should we or should we not? Or
Well, it was my colleague who brought up the fact as we were looking at various industries, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of change. It's complex, and our skills and experience and our expertise could do well for the business owners in the cannabis industry.
Stan, if someone was looking for you at Standish Executive Search, how would they find you?
Well, they can certainly find us online at standishsearch.com, and that's probably the best way to locate us.
Good. And in the future, would you come back again for one of our future shows? Talk to us about how the whole industry is evolving,
Love to continue the conversation.
right? And thank Walter Sullivan.
Dan, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
And keep the search going.
Right.
And
Appreciate the
growth.
invitation.
Right.
Thank you.
Do you think you could get Walter a job?
We'll
I need
work-
one.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
He needs someone that just doesn't want to get high.
My name is Jeffrey Davis, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. We'll be right back.